What's up, guys? I'm the Wrestlegamer. Welcome back to Let's Play Battleship Bishojo right here on the arcade. On the last two episodes, we've been seeing what the other girls have been doing. You know, when we visited Miyoko and we visited Sophie. So, what we're going to be doing on this episode is we're going to be visiting Olivia and seeing what Olivia has been doing. I wonder what Olivia is up to. I've never really did check on that whole hole in the boat thing that happened. I made my way downstairs to the boiler room, or engine room, whatever it was called. I still didn't know somehow. She was down there as usual, tinkering around with the device she had laid out on the table near the boiler. Completely silent, not even muttering to herself. She was either deep in thought or passed out. So how goes it? She jumped a little, looking over her shoulder and frowning. After she let out an embarrassed sigh, she stood from the table. Hello, Daiki. Did you need anything? No need to be so forward. We've known each other long enough by now, yeah? Then again, you do spend most of your time down here, so it is sort of hard to talk most of the time. You okay? I'm perfectly fine, Daiki. Now, was there anything you needed or not? I was just checking in to make sure the hole from a little while ago was patched up better, honestly. I looked over, as did she, to see the place where the hole used to be. The slab of wood I had nailed over so haphazardly was now more refined, sawed down, and the edges were coated with strips of tape and what looked like a coating of sealant. So that's how you do it on here. It works for how archaic the method is. And I see the boiler is still holding up. I observed the large piece of machinery further. It looked so worn out, pieces of tape and cloth bindings all across its surface. I whistled at the sight. You put a lot of work into this thing, haven't you? Well, I needed to. This isn't exactly the most high-tech vessel on the open seas. Could have fooled me. Haha. The fact that it only takes 4 people to operate still baffles me. It's not exactly a large ship, Daiki. True. I don't know, I always had this thought. That you needed a whole army of shipmates to sail a ship. Not true at all, actually. Katsu could run this thing all on her own if she really wanted to. I think she actually did at some point. She just appreciates the assistance. Don't sell yourself short. I'm sure she couldn't keep this thing running half as well as you can. I looked over and could tell she was blushing. I smirked and looked back over at the workbench. How's the invention going? Oh. Man, even Olivia's getting flustered now. She's done better at this than I gave myself credit for. She bounced back quickly, however. It's given me some issues with basic design, but it's almost done. Well, a portable harpoon gun is quite the adventurous feat. I looked the device over. It almost had a shotgun-like body, but it was a bit thicker up top, likely where the harpoon would be stored. I mean, I believe we have these back where I'm from, but not quite like this. Well, I'm aware they already exist, Daiki. My mission was to make a more powerful one. One with more punch, one that could tear into any surface and stick just as well. Dang, that's a bit of a scary thought, actually. It'd only be used on our journeys, especially the larger creatures out there. Heh. I'm sorry, I hope I'm not repeating myself. What? No, you're fine. I love hearing about this thing. She blinked at me, confusion on her face. Why is that? Well, I don't know. I think it's just cool that you're able to build this sort of stuff by scratch. I mean, it's not easy to do that sort of thing. I'd never be able to do that on my own, believe me. She was dead silent, her eyes looking away from me, resting upon the harpoon gun. She stood there, blushing, a small smile on her face. Thank you. For what? My response seemed to adjust her accordingly. She straightened back up, her eyes back to their usual sharp appearance. For checking that everything on the ship was working accordingly. I appreciate the sentiment, but I can handle things just fine on here. Well, hey, chill, I never said you couldn't. I just thought you might like some company once in a while, that's all. So that's the real reason you came down here, then? Well, there were a few reasons, I guess, but That could be seen as the main one if you want. Well, I see. Well, thanks again, I suppose. There was that awkward silence again. And was it great just standing there shuffling around with nothing to say? It's just the best feeling in the world. Come on, Daiki, just say something and break the silence. Was there anything else you wanted? Me? Just to talk, I guess. I have some downtime, so... You want to talk? With me? Why is that so hard to believe? I couldn't believe that anyone wouldn't want to talk with you. And why is that? Well, being drop-dead gorgeous is a plus. As much as she wanted to hide it, I could see that familiar blush come searing across her cheeks. Better keep the momentum going. It's funny somehow, in every group I've been a part of, there's always a shy girl. Oh, is that all I am in this situation? Well, so far, yeah, pretty much. Not that you can't be more than that, but honestly, that's all I have to go on. So I'm the strong, silent type. You said it, not me. That got a laugh out of her somehow. I pondered something to ask her and went with the obvious and easy one. So how'd you get aboard this ship? Have you known Katsu for a while, or... Actually, you really want to know about that? I've been on the ship for this long, it's about time I learned that from you, I'd think. Fair enough, if you indulged in my own personal exposition. Gladly. She leaned back and smiled, then the smile wavered. She closed her eyes as if a painful memory had returned to her. Sometimes it's hard to tell, but I'd say it's about a year now? Possibly less. I lived in a beach town not far off the peninsula of... Well, I suppose it doesn't really matter where the name is, considering this place is completely alien to you. Right, less effort for the storyteller. I flashed a grin as she rolled her eyes, continuing the story. Anyway, well, let's just get past adolescence, because my upbringing was rather normal. I was raised by my father, and he was a carpenter. Well, so I'm not the only male in this dimension, then. No, hotshot, you're not. May I continue? Of course. I always loved tinkering with things, finding out how they work. When I was young, I had this clock that my dad gave me that I absolutely dismantled for the sole purpose of putting it back together. And how did that go? Better than you think. I just paid attention to what came out of where and what had to go back into what place. My father gave me my very own set of tools to use. She glanced over at the toolbox on the table nearby. It meant a lot to me back then. The older I grew up, the more I wanted to make things. New things. Or heck, just make them better. It was just this exciting idea of, yes, I can do this. I can make this how I want to, so... I got this little shack out on the coast near this small town, and her eyes went from proud and excited to demure, almost sad. Well, not everything I made went exactly according to plan. Things got out of hand once, and well, that shack isn't there anymore. As well as half the town I was occupying. Oh man. It wasn't pretty. I was basically run out of that place, as you can imagine. I took to living in the upstairs of a local bar. The owner was a friend of my dad's, and, well, he was very kind to me. I worked as a barmaid for a while, just keeping my head down, hoping everything would blow over and I could return to town someday. And that's when I met Katsu. A wry smile developed on her face. Katsu was crafty. I mean, she still is, but somehow she found me. She heard about the incident in my village, and she knew about what I was doing. She needed an engineer for her ship because it had broken down nearby. She barely got it back to the docks, apparently. And guess who she wanted to fix it? Catilda, well, yeah, me of all people. All this time being looked down upon as nothing more than a screw-up who admittedly destroyed half of a small village and had inadvertently killed a handful of people? She inadvertently killed a handful of people? She sighed heavily, wiping a hand across her face. Katsu wanted me. She wanted an engineer, and I was the one to repair her broken-down ship. It was only supposed to be a one-and-done sort of thing. I get paid for commission, and she goes on her merry way, but we get to talking. Well, she got me aboard this crazy ship hunting for sea monsters. Yeah, that's wild. Was it that easy? I wasn't at the best point in my life. I was willing to do anything to get away from the mess I had made. Think you'll ever be able to go back there? Yeah, of course. It was my home, after all. She got really quiet after that. Let's try gently reassuring her. I smiled at her, taking her by the shoulders gently. Her face once again went a deep pink as she looked up at me. We all make mistakes, alright? I'm sure you can go back whenever you want. And you can show them how much of a strong girl you are now, okay? She really looked at me for a minute, dumbstruck, before lowering her head and looking to the side. But she still smiled. Thank you, Daiki. I appreciate it. Hey, it's no problem at all. I'm always here to listen. With that, a high-pitched whistle spurred from the boiler nearby, making us both jump. Olivia was quick to action, however, darted over to it, wrench in hand, twisting here and banging there without another word. I decided now was as good as any other time to bow out for a while. Even if it was early, I could spend the rest of the day relaxing on the upper decks, finally getting a bit of a break from all the insane hijinks that happened in the row lately. Who knows when I might get this kind of time again. The next day... well, tell you what. Let's see if we can... if there was a decision we made which would unlock a new picture. Okay, well, we can't go any further than that. So let's see what would happen if we didn't gently reassure her. Just going through this. Let's try to change the subject. Let's see what happens there. Look, anyway, how about we try to focus on something else? Huh? How do you mean? Her face seemed to fall. Well... okay, yeah, it's just basically the same thing. So, what we're going to do right here, guys and gals, we're going to go ahead and call it an episode. If you guys like this video, make sure you slam that like button. Like a champ, and if you guys want to see more of Battleship Bishojo right here in the arcade, you know the two ways you got to do it. You got to leg drop the subscribe button and hit that bell icon to turn on notifications. That way you guys will never miss out on another video right here on my channel. So with that being said, I am your friendly neighborhood Wrestlegamer, reminding all of you out there to stay awesome. Bye, guys.